viewers. Welcome back to the VC podcast. I'm your host, Hamza. I'm here with Omar Virjee, CEO of Virjee Consulting. Today we are here with another update for the business economy episode that we did last time. The goal of the episode, we're going to kind of take on what's going on in the economy. We're going to connect that to your business. And kind of explain it in plain English terms, somehow you can connect that to your business. That being said, I want to start off with our first question. What's just the overall update of the economic climate, as we start into 2024?
So it gets broken into different components, right? So we've got a tax bill that has a lot of push. It's been already approved by Congress. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the bonus depreciation extension, right? So that's going into extending bonus depreciation into 2025. Now it's kind of caught up in Senate with where they haven't been able to vote on it yet, but you've got that part of the legislation going on that obviously has an impact on the economy. You have interest rates that basically now the Fed basically just said the fact that hey, they are looking at now cutting interest rates going into the second half of 2024 into 2025. That's going to have an impact, right? The supply chain, there's been a stabilization of the supply chain around commodities. Now, certain things are still obviously rising in price, but a lot of the main commodities, a lot of the things that we're using day to day for business, right, and from a consumer standpoint, has been stabilizing. Those prices are a lot higher than they were, 2 years ago, but they're stabilizing. We're no longer in that, oh my gosh, what's this next price going to be? When I buy this item the next day, next week, right? There's not like that uncertainty. And then you continue to have a very tight labor market, right? So there's multiple things going on. So to kind of really answer that question on the economic climate, the tax bill has brought a lot of optimism into the business community, right? The fact that okay, we're going to get some more depreciation deductions, that's going to lower tax bill, and that's already causing murmurs in the investment community, right? That's the upside. The downside is the fact that you're going to continue to see real estate be inflated beyond its proper investment pricing because people are just buying real estate for the sake of the deduction, right? Mm-hmm. No longer looking at the economics aspect of it. Now you add that along with interest rates, right? Possibly being cut, I think it's going to even inflate, that area even more. And I'll kind of talk more into how that's going to connect with other business or small business issues. The consumer pricing kind of stabilizing more. It's kind of a breather, mm-hmm. right? Because before we were like, well, what's the next price going to be? And everyone's kind of on their toes. So that's positive. But the labor market being tight is still causing an inflationary impact. What that basically means is the fact that in whatever area of the economy that you're in, obviously our clients are mainly, dental practices, medical practices, small business owners, everyone has felt the fact that the labor market is tight, right? And that's increasing, wages. And that's being passed on to the consumer and then that into your patients and so forth, so on. So that ripple effect is still happening. So even though inflation itself is kind of to an extent stabilizing, the tight labor market and the robust real estate market is still causing a inflationary climate, if you want to so call it. What that does is that's causing a continuous forward momentum for businesses. Now, that's very different from what we all expected. We all expected going into 2023, Q3 2023, going into 2024, that we were going to go into a recessionary climate, and you're going to see losses across the board. What you've seen is that larger companies that overhired had fat. And they went ahead and you saw that across the board from Facebook to Google, and you're still seeing some of that happening right now. We even saw some news come out today and last week about layoffs in bigger companies, right? So they've been cutting the fat, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't see profits declining. So you're not seeing profits declining. So the overall the economy, my voiceover is the fact that it's still stable and moving forward.
Right.
It is a surprise because the overall consensus was the fact that with inflationary markets, heating up, right? Labor market being very tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And credit basically becoming harder to get, you would have expected a recessionary tumble.
Right.
And the Federal Reserve has done a good job of somehow balancing this act and still kind of keeping things where you don't see a doom and gloom kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do see is a more challenging business environment, and we'll talk about that kind of as we go on. But that's kind of overall, I mean, the economy, the fact that we are moving forward. The economy itself is strong and robust, but we're facing inflationary pressures from specific areas such as labor and real estate, and that is causing a constraint of our margins. But we are no longer looking at like, oh shoot, I gotta like put money under the bed and kind of wait for Armageddon kind of thing going on, right? The Fed has kind of stabilized the market with their moves.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of my take on that.
So, I mean, Virjee Consulting, we deal with a lot of dental and medical clients. We also deal with investment real estate clients. Given all the updates you gave in the economy, how does that affect those clients?
So dental practices, the valuations of dental practices continue to be elevated. We work with hundreds of dental practices, and we do consultations on practice on the purchase side, on the sales side, and I'm continuously surprised at the numbers I'm seeing where there's a premium that is still being paid on good practices, and so what this economy is doing is the fact that it's because interest rates are still low enough to make a practice purchase profitable, right? You're going to get a loan, whatever, 4 to 5%, but you're going to have EBITDA of 20 to 25% EBITDA on a good practice. The ROI still makes sense, right? So you still see that practices are, valuations are stable, strong, and real estate, on the other hand, is still strong and prices are still. We had a little bit of a dip in commercial, but nothing major. But they're still overpriced. Real estate itself is currently still overpriced, and those are our clients, and then know the fact that we have a strong knowledge base in two areas, obviously in the dental and medical field, and also our sister company that basically invests in real estate, commercial real estate development, and so forth. So we're very well acquainted with the real estate world. And quite frankly, people are buying for the sake of the deduction. No, not looking only at the economics of it, saying, okay, does this make sense if I buy this property on an ROI perspective? It's really like, okay, well, the ROI is there, but I'm going to buy for the deduction, right? Those two dynamics are keeping the valuation of dental practices high and real estate high. But here's the challenge that practices are facing now. They faced last year, then continue facing going into 2024, 2025. With the labor market being tight, their margins are going to continue to get squeezed. So you will see practice margins get tighter because the cost of the labor is higher, cost of consumables is higher. They're still struggling with to get higher reimbursements from insurance, right? If you're a fee for service model, then that's different. Then you're able to kind of protect your margin there because you control your pricing a bit more. But you will see the same good practice is going to have tighter margins and will earn less money. I also feel the fact that the second dynamic between inflation wages and is the fact that the real estate market being so hot will mean the fact that property taxes are going higher, which they've been going ridiculously higher in Texas for the last 2 years. I mean, we've seen properties go up 30% in value, 40% on property tax value. Now you've got a new curveball, property insurance. Major insurance providers have left Texas this year, and they have refused to insure a lot of these properties. And so what's happened is insurance prices have gone up 30-40%. So you take higher interest rates, you take higher insurance costs, higher property tax costs, higher repairs cost because the person that's fixing the property, if there's damages or broken this or broken that or whatever, is charging more. All of that is basically then getting pushed to the dental practice owner through triple net leases. So they're paying more in rent and overhead. They're paying more in wages, and they're struggling to obtain the same amount of revenue. So you can see margin squeezed.
You recently had a video where you talked about some potential real estate laws that might pass. Also, the other things you mentioned, just now about real estate. How do you think investment in real estate is going to fare this year, given all these potential changes and current changes that have happened?
I think real estate prices will remain elevated, especially if it's under $4 million, because that's the type of properties that more people can finance and and purchase, right, and write off, right. The bigger properties, those the people in that playing field are a lot less, and so those will kind of be more at market value. But the properties that are $4 million and lower, those properties you will see the pricing is kind of be like, if you're really looking at it from an economic standpoint, you're like, how does that even make any sense? How is the interest rate 6 or 6.5% and the margin and the ROI on the property 6%, right, or cap rate, right? Like how does that even make sense? How do you make money in that kind of deal? Right. You don't. You were just buying it for deduction, and that's causing that property value to stay high because a lot of people are doing that. So I think commercial properties in the $4 million range or lower, prices will remain elevated, and it will be elevated because of tax reasons, and it'll be more elevated if this tax law passes, right? And that's gonna, again, like I said, cause a ripple effect to small businesses.
I think you made a great comment about potentially buying real estate just for the tax deduction. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because we deal with a lot of clients who sometimes can't get the difference between a good investment, like you mentioned, ROI and other factors like that, and just chasing after a tax deduction.
Right.
Could you speak a little bit more about just what to look for and not just to go after just a tax deduction?
Yeah, so I think obviously it's the fantasy of most business owners to basically be a real estate mogul, right? And it takes a lot more than just buying a duplex to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people get caught up in the rush of real estate and the aura around it,
right?
Where they end up purchasing something, not realizing the fact that, okay, well, my interest rate is 6%,
mm-hmm,
and my profit margin, rental homes are like 4% cap rate, a commercial property will be a 6.5% cap rate, but your interest rate 6%.
Right.
I mean, you're not really making anything on the spread. And if you have a few months of vacancy, or if you have a commercial property of a year of vacancy,
mm-hmm,
well, you're in deep trouble, right? And so really understanding what is the property you're going into, is there a long-term appreciation with that property, and buying a property for the economic aspect of it, not just the deduction aspect of it. The deduction aspect of it, goes into cost segregation, and you're buying a property. If you cost segregate the property, you get significant write-offs. So we do that all the time for our clients, and we do it for ourselves too, right? As part of our real estate portfolio. But you have to separate the two. And it's okay to buy something for the sake of the deduction, but as long as you are honest with yourself and saying, I know this property deal is not profitable, but I'm buying it for the sake of the fact that I'm going to get a huge write-off, and that's going to carry my ROI, mm-hmm, until I can refinance or something at a lower rate.
Right. So we discussed kind of the overall economy update. We talked a little bit about investment real estate. What advice do you have for our dental and medical clients?
I think our dental and medical clients going into 2024, 2025 have to be smarter about their businesses if they're going to compete in this new economy, this new era, this new market. Because historically, right, when you're in a business market, when margins are nice and fat, you can be loosey-goosey with your business. You can not even know all your numbers to the T, right? Mm-hmm. And find your really sharp practice owner that looks at all the KPIs and talks to their CPA and has an advisor and all that stuff, right? they're doing 25, 28%, whatever, right? You're doing 18%, but you're still making cash flow.
Right.
When margins are squeezed, DSOs are entering the market, right? More competition is entering the market. More new builds are being built everywhere as far as new practices, right? And so your population is getting more constrained. You have to know your numbers.
Right.
You have to be disciplined with your business. You have to be disciplined with your KPIs. You have to have a plan. You have to have a blueprint. You know, you can't just go into the business not having those right tools, because it's the equivalent of you walking into doing a procedure and have never looked at that as X-ray,
right,
and never having a treatment plan, right?
Right.
And so I think over the last 5 to 8 years, you know, dental practice haven't been able to get away with just being dentists and not really focusing on the medical aspect. I mean, also the financial aspect of it. But now, in this new era, with margins being squeezed, right? You have to be a business owner, and there's no business owner that is successful without knowing their numbers, their KPIs, having a plan, having and understanding where am I and where do I want to go, and what metrics do I need to hit to get there, right? What's my runway? So you have to be smart about it, and that's my kind of 2 cents.
Awesome. That's all the questions I have for you. I really appreciate your insight. Thank you everyone for watching, and just be on the lookout for our next episode.
All right. Thank you.